go ahead and start the show as far as I'm concerned. There's wires over here. Might be too small. Where were we? Oh yeah, I need some more cables.
You're on the air.
Oh, we're live? Oh yeah, well. Well, this comes as no surprise to anybody that I'm running really late right now. And so I'm not quite ready to start the show. I have different stuff and I didn't have it. Okay, I'll stop talking and start sitting up here. Okay. If I plug this in over here, excuse me. Okay. This goes over here. In one spot. Oh. If this doesn't work, I'll just do a little song and dance. Okay, so I got like a few more things to plug in, and then I get the guitar out. And then we'll assume everything's good to go. We can always hope. Okay, so 1, 2, need 3 of these. Bring Nobule over here. This Popeye always used to mutter under his breath, didn't he? Yeah. Okay. How you doing, Bob? Is your mic live?
Oh, when we were doing sound checks before you got here, it was.
Okay, well,
I suppose it still is.
I assume it still is. Yeah. It's a good sign.
Well, before the music starts, maybe that's a good time to do our shameless plug.
Yeah.
Will you be at the? Well, will you be at the Tuscan Moon this weekend in lovely downtown Kelowna?
I'll be at the Tuscan Moon this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I think I'll take the next 2 Fridays off. Of course, all it was a little off. No, I mean, I'd be off because I, actually, the 30th I'm playing at a party. 31st, excuse me, the last day of the month. And, there's the purple one. And then, February 7th, I'm going to do the faculty recital at Coe College. And I want to tear it up, you know, because when you go into a school of music, you know, and you're with a guitar, people think, you know, what is that, a banjo? Something in this. So, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with a banjo. I mean,
And you teach guitar at Coe College, don't you?
yeah. Somebody has to do it. All right, hang on. I'm doing things wrong here. Let's see. Yeah. I teach guitar there, and I'm planning to. You know, when I plug this one red chord in, all I got to do is get the guitar out, and I can do the Tom's Guitar Show theme.
Ah. I read the other day that Al Capone played the banjo in the Alcatraz band.
Really good for him. He died of syphilis, though, I think, didn't he?
Yeah.
Some truly great Americans.
Insert banjo player joke here.
Yeah. Well, I would assume he was playing a plectrum banjo. So that's different. You know?
No, he didn't say what kind of a banjo, he just said a banjo.
Yeah, they didn't. In his day, they hadn't invented bluegrass yet.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Hang on, I just want to get this here guitar out of here. And then I'll just push one more button and plug it in, push a button, and I should be ready to play the song again. If all goes well. I had actually planned to get here about an hour early.
Yeah.
Do some other things. But that's not how life works over here. So.
Well, the way some of the intersections in Iowa City are, probably fairly lucky to get here at all.
Yeah, well, hang on, I'm just gonna put this over here, because I can't. How's that? I've never put a guitar there before, a guitar case there before. No, I almost ran over somebody coming over, you know. I'm a pretty careful driver, but.
Yeah, earlier today, I thought I was going to slide into a car that was stopped at a stoplight. I just barely got stopped before I got to it.
Yeah.
And on the way out of town earlier today, I saw a car that had got T-boned.
Yeah. Well, that's happened quite a bit lately. There've been a lot of pile-ups and things. And let's see
Yeah,
if this
a lot
works.
of the intersections are pretty greasy.
Yeah, they're very greasy. Let's see what this is like. That's a lot of reverb. Maybe I just dial it down a notch or two. Let me turn over this one here. That's that's kind of nice and reasonably in tune. Well, hang on, I gotta play this one song. Anyway, so if I didn't mention it before, I'll mention it now. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm off the scene with a guitar. They call me on the phone and say, "Hey man, what's the show about anyways?" Yeah, it's about an hour. About guitar players, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic. So if you want to call me on the phone, ask me a question about the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, some related topic like the guitarrone, guitarra, cithara, chitoles, lutes, ouds, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookas, bajos, sextos, banjolales, ukuleles, banjolins, I don't know, man, tiples, cavaquinhos, trombones, tromborinas, clarinets, clavinets. Skropinski isn't here yet. He could add in the other ones that he likes to mention. The archaic clarinets that they don't have anymore, like the A and the C.
Xylophones and zithers.
Yeah, here we go. That's right. Is there any musical instrument that starts with two A's like Aardvark does? I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah. Huh. Anyway, politics, world events, your own personality problems is fine, but keep it clean. This is a family program. Okay. So you're going to leave us now, aren't you? You're going to go snowbird.
Yes, next week I will go on the road.
Yeah. Down to Sin City down there, huh?
Yeah.
What do they call Las Vegas? I mean, I think the Tinseltown is like Hollywood, but or whatever, but isn't it?
Sin City's the most common thing.
Sin City.
I've heard it called.
Yeah, I see. You don't get up to too much sitting
No,
down there.
at my age, there's not a lot of sitting you can do anymore.
Well, you could. I mean,
Yeah, I suppose.
The multitude of sins that you probably haven't thought of before, but yeah. I mean, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I've been musing about that. See, I don't really have an appetite for things that are particularly illegal. I mean, materialism is a sinful thing. I collect guitars. I put some new strings on this. I've had this one for a while, I know, but for some reason the pickups get kind of smudgy or something. Not that I touch them, but like something something sort of grows on them. So I cleaned it all up. I put new strings on it last night for because I wanted to try a little something on the show. And so of course I like to. I mean, I haven't bought a guitar this week, but I shine up the ones that I have and stuff like that. I don't have time to play the ones I have, so I really like this one actually. This is sort of like it's a DBZ Bolero, and it's basically it's like a Les Paul. So I have this, and I have this reverb here, which is a Digitech reverb. I have my looper down there. I have a loop station down there. And then one thing I did get new was this little footstool that I'm using here. I haven't quite figured out what to do with it yet, but I suppose I could, I could like put other things, like if I have pedals I don't touch, I could put them on this lower step. There's 2 steps, you see. And, I think this is so little people can get up and brush their teeth.
Yeah, we have a similar thing like that for the grandsons to use the wash bowl.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of like the same kind of like reddish, wood color that the stool is. But the lower stool, I could put the humdebugger and the things that I don't normally, mess with,
Right.
don't touch. And then I could put the ones I'm going to stomp on up top. And then I could have it like here, so if I'm playing a gig, because I'm a low rent kind of guy, and the thing about like a restaurant or anything like that, a lot of times things are like it's like the rental.
We have a director.
Yeah, the director made it. Okay, it's like the real estate kind of thing, because you like, for instance, in the lesson, we took this thing about teaching lessons, because I teach music lessons, and they say that the manager this thing was saying it was like real estate, because he's basically renting these little rooms with pianos and things in it for people to teach, and so he takes a percentage. So for him, it's a real estate thing,
Right.
Now for me as a teacher, it would be like you worry about the student and their progress, or at least I do. I should start thinking about how much money I can extract from them. No, I just think about that. So if you play in a restaurant and you have a hey.
I'm sorry, just say hi.
Hey, our director is here. We were just mentioning. So if I play like in a restaurant or something like that, then I don't have a whole lot of space. They give me a little, a little, like I have to take a table out, a little table for 2 out, and so which actually is the name of one of my albums that I have for sale on allthingsguitartom.com. Was that a plug? I should have done that, right? Was that against the bylaws?
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
That was All Things Guitar Tom.
Yeah, allthingsguitartom.com.
Your albums are available there?
Yeah, you can go to music or whatever. There's a click on that thing, and it's all the things you can buy, the downloads.
Probably not illegal if I say it.
Oh yeah, okay. But anyway, so I have one that's called Table for 2. It's me playing like jazz guitar thing. But see, so they take out the table for 2, and they have room for me. Now, if I go too far out this way, then the waitresses are going to trip over it. They don't have any waiters anymore, so or the busboy. And if I can't go this way too far because I'll be blocking the staircase to the rumpus room upstairs. So I have to take I can't occupy very much space.
So, and since they need the customers to carry in the income.
Yeah, I mean, if you took out 2 tables, then that'd be too expensive. So anyway, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna record this. Yeah, 1, 2. Yeah, how about this? have the loop station, and I made up a little loop, just a real short one, a couple phrases with the Digitech digital reverb, the X series Digitech digital reverb. It doesn't seem to say what the name of it was. Digitech's the company, and the digital reverb is what that little light blue pedal I have does. The dark blue pedal is a Blues Driver, which I got used pretty cheap. So, among all these, so you got a red one, and a lighter blue one, and a darker blue one. And two of them are Bosses. The Loop Station and the Blues Driver are Boss. And it's a Digiverb. That's what it's called, Digiverb. That's its name. Usually they have like a name. The Blues Driver is a BD2. You see. So anyway, this one over here is my looper, right? This here is my reverb. This here is my Blues Driver. My Blues Driver takes my nice, respectable sound, turns it into. Okay. So anyway, I don't do that much dancing around pedals. Like a lot of people do a lot more than I do, but I may do a lot of looping, but I don't do a lot of. Like usually once I get a reverb or something established, I leave it for the whole gig, and I do the one electric guitar sound. But so anyway, I have all that, and also the thing about the DBZ is it has two double coil pickups, and if I pull a little knob out, it turns into single coil, so it becomes like. Put it together, you get my humbuckers. I think Mr. Skopinski's trying to get a hold of you there, I'm not sure. What's he put on your headset or something?
No, I just wanted to give Bob the thumbs up for that good shot that he just got. It worked out perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
And I also want to point out that this is not the reliable monitor. That's not what's going out over the air, because it doesn't look good. It's not well framed in the. We have a monitor here in the studio that the talent can see what's going out on the air.
Talent is a technical term.
So,
Yeah.
But it's for some reason, and it's gotten so complicated with all our digital technology. The picture that Tom is seeing here in the studio is not the same as what's going out over the air. So I'm trying to reassure Tom that don't worry about it. It looks good on the camera out there.
That's fine. I guess I could watch it when it gets on YouTube. But everything I can't see anything above my nose. You see, I can't even see my nose. You see.
Yeah, it kind of cuts your.
Where it ends here for me, but.
And for Bob's sake, he's relying on the LED screens that are in the camera, and those are fine. That's a much more reliable guide than that. So, anyway, just wanted to. But I was just trying to get Bob's attention to give him the thumbs up for that great shot of the close-ups of your foot pedals there. So.
But we won't have Bob to kick around anymore for quite a while, not till spring, I guess. So you're leaving soon, like a few
Leaving
days.
sometime next week.
Next week, okay. And then you'll
Be
return.
back in April.
April, okay. Well, by that time it'll be a whole different thing. I mean.
Well, Lord willing, and I-90 doesn't get closed again.
Yeah, you going out on I-90?
I come back on I-90.
I-90, yeah. Well, April, you never know what's going to happen.
I go out on I-40.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully the roads have cleared by the time I come back in April. But last year,
Yeah, you get snowed out.
got a blizzard, yeah. Spent 3 nights in Gillette, Wyoming, because I-90 was closed across South Dakota.
That must have been heaven for you.
Oh,
3
yeah.
nights in Gillette, Wyoming. They have an Applebee's or anything nearby, or?
They had a Pizza Hut, a Subway, and an independent Mexican restaurant, and an independent Chinese restaurant.
I see. Did you try them all, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Some more than once, probably.
Well, they had, I think it was an Arby's we stopped at, too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's always good, a little variety in your diet.
Right.
Yeah, I got stuck in Salt Lake City. When my car, my radiator went out. It was in the summer, and I just, it was like Saturday, I think, and Saturday afternoon or something.
Yeah.
So I was there Saturday night, and then all through Sunday, and then Monday I got it fixed. As I was on my way to California, I had to load it up with equipment. Not really what I like to do. If I have a pretty good budget, I suppose I could Salt Lake City might be a little bit more exciting than Gillette, Wyoming. Probably not. Probably not.
Well, it's a much bigger town.
That's right.
There's a coal mine near Gillette, and that's what supports the town.
I see. That's nice.
From what I saw, Salt Lake City, it looks like payday loan companies support that town.
Oh,
Like there's
is it?
one on about every corner.
Really? Huh. Oh, those Mormons are frugal and everything. I don't know. I stayed in a motel. I think I found a Motel 6 or something really cheap, and I rewrote the score to the play that I scored. I wrote all the music for this play that was opening in California, and so I wanted to just rewrite the score because I did it by hand. That's in the old days, and so I sat at my little desk there in the motel and did that. But then going on the convenience store, and there were rather rough-looking people hanging around the parking lot of the convenience store, just like they do in California. And it surprised me in Salt Lake City, but I hadn't been there for a long time. But
Yeah, we went out and saw the Great Salt Lake while we were there and floated in it.
oh yeah,
And went out, there's an island in the middle of it.
Hmm.
Most of the bison in the U.S. today are descended from bison that were on that island.
Oh, I see, because they're the only ones that survived or something?
Yeah, in the 1800s, the Army and the railroads tried to drive the bison extinct to get rid of the Indians,
Yeah,
and very nearly did it.
yeah.
But there was some rich guy who owned that island at the time and had a private hunting preserve on there that he had a herd of bison on.
Huh.
And,
Wow.
and people have bred them, and like I say, most of them in the U.S. today are descended from the herd on his private hunting preserve out there on the island in the middle of the Great Salt Lake.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's interesting. I floated in the Great Salt Lake. I didn't know there was an island out there, I guess. It's a long time ago when I was a young kid, I went out there and I floated around, and I think we had cans of beer, and you could you float so well,
Yeah, we have a picture of my wife sitting in the lake.
Yeah. Well, the Japanese video crew showed up in a little van, and one guy almost spoke some English, and we take a video of you, and I said, sure, we're out there, a bunch of 19-year-old Iowans with their beer cans floating in their cut-off shorts, and they took a little video of us. Well, thank you very much, and they went out, and it was kind of funny.
Coming out, we got hit by a salt storm.
Wow, yeah.
And the car looked like it does after you drive on Iowa roads this time of year.
Yeah. Well, my car's covered with salt right now. I used to drive to San Francisco. I used to go to San Francisco a lot. I took guitar lessons there. I hung around there. I lived there for 3 years. But I go to and from, sometimes on the Greyhound, but a lot of times I drive, and whatever old car I had, and it was really always kind of fun. There's a rest stop right in the salt flats. It's to park in the rest stop and just go walking, until you just get to the point where you just can't quite see that rest stop anymore, and then you turn around and go back, But just to be out in that, so you see the sky, you see the mountains in the distance, and this big white flat expansive of just salt. That's just white.
Yeah.
It's way cool thing to. I guess I always was a romantic too. I like driving across North Dakota because it gives you a chance to really unwind. If you're doing I-90, that's South Dakota.
I-90 South Dakota.
94 is North Dakota. Because you're going to Seattle, right?
Yeah, we go through Utah going up to Seattle on the way home. Well, it's not on the way home, but a diversion before we come home.
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah.
We only see that grandson about once a year. And
Probably changes quite a bit now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw me last year, you'd probably never change
not
it.
much change when you get to our age.
Yeah. You get to a certain point when you're like, But yeah, that kid of mine, I tell you, man, he's been 19 for a while now. He's a very different sort of person than he was when he was 17.
I think my son's 37 now. So
Not a whole lot different from when he was 36.
he doesn't change much from one year to the next.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's good because that's usually bad news if you do. But I mean, sometimes,
Actually, he isn't. Yeah, he'll be 37 this year.
Well, to quote the poet, Bob Dylan, time is a jet plane, it moves too fast. What a shame that all we share can't last. I can change, I swear. Whoa, see what you can do. I can make it through. You can make it too. Love is so simple to quote a phrase. I'm not even trying to sing. I'm sorry. I'm just being. I love Bob Dylan's music, you know, especially the old stuff. I think that was from Blood on the Tracks. Great album. But I'm not even trying. I should be ashamed. I'm a little ashamed. But you know, time is a jet plane. It moves too fast. Yeah.
I was never into his singing. I liked his songs better when Peter, Paul, and Mary or somebody sang them.
Yeah. I was trying to. One song that's a really good etude for guitar players is "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right," because it has all the elements of the usual like, folk country song.
Yeah.
And first off, it has the 4 chords. You know.
Yeah.
Like, no, 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 no woman, no cry. Or if I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. But anyway, so it's all those things, right?
Yeah.
So you have that, so you have like, ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby. If you don't know by now, so C, G, A minor, D7, that's a 2. Never do somehow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a traveling on, but don't think twice, it's alright. That's too low, so I modulated, now I'm in D. Ain't no use just turn on your light, babe. The light I never know. See, I got that. Here's my 2, C7, A, D, D7, and G, E7, D, A, D minor, G, and D, A, D. All right. So I'm in E now. I went up another. Here's my F sharp 7. That's my 2. I'm gonna explain this in a minute. Sorry, I forgot what key I was in. That was yeah. E, F, like F, C, D minor, B flat, F, C7, F, C, D minor, G7, and C, and F, F7, B flat. Ooh, I should have made a 7, B flat, and then G7. And of course there's G. Yeah, A. Anyway, I'm just playing all these different keys. But see, what it is the thing they call the 4 chords. And if you want to know the definitive 4 chords experience, go to YouTube and type in 4 chords. That's CHORDS chords, because it's not like a chord you plug your guitar in with. It's chords. 4 chords. The Axis of Awesome, and they do like 34 songs that have exactly the same chord progression. You'll come a waltzing Matilda. So I mean, they do like 34. They're Australian. They're 3 guys. It's a band, but really they're like a comedy act. And so they say they do all these 34 songs. It's so and Don't Think Twice, It's All Right isn't in that list. They have a when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Why won't that be? There are a gazillion songs. Like
Which reminds me, there's another one on YouTube that's Paul McCartney wrote every song.
that.
That's a whole bunch of songs with that progression in it.
I see. Well, you see that's the thing is that Waltzing Matilda, which was by Banjo somebody or other, probably in the 1890s or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Was he used that chord progression too? And I'm sure Beethoven had it in there somewhere too. So I don't know. So it's not exactly, but, so I guess, what I'm nattering on about is that, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right has that in it, plus it has the two. There's a 1, 5, relative minor, 4, and then there's 2. So if you can play Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, you can play a whole bunch of songs. So that's my etude, and for those who don't take music lessons all the time, see, I like, I teach music lessons 5 days a week, and I'm really, so I think in terms of, well, now you gotta do etude number 47 this week, and we're gonna learn how to do this, and so, but an etude, of course, is just a French word for study. So you have a book that has study, etude, and estudios in it. Say, what's the difference? Say, well, one's English, one's French, and one's Spanish. But, so if you want to do a study, I think Don't Think Twice Is All Right is a great thing for anybody who wants to play like the folk country type of thing. And so some people, I look it up for them. If somebody's a little bit redder around the neck or something like that, didn't really want to hear Bob Dylan, I give them Johnny Cash, because he covered it. I think Andy Williams did it too. Well, everybody did it.
Well, Andy Williams, he's an old-time singer. He didn't write songs. He just sang everybody else's song and made dozens and dozens and dozens of albums. So.
Right. And some people really like the way he delivered those songs. But that's the way they did in the old days. Somebody would write the music and somebody else would, perform it.
Yep.
So.
And Hank Williams and Buddy Holly came along and singer-songwriter.
Yeah. And of course, there's Gordon Lightfoot and
Yeah.
Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and, the whole crew.
Talking about chords, etc., and the impact on people. I was watching a YouTube video this morning, as a matter of fact. This will be a topic for another day, but I've been doing a lot of research on, well, not a lot of research. I've been thinking about the state of popular music nowadays. It's how it's produced and synthesized and stuff like that, and it has its good pluses and minuses. But I was looking for YouTube videos that had criticisms of contemporary music production, and I happened upon some young girl. She looked like maybe a high school student. The title of her video caught my eye, but it wasn't a very fruitful discussion in terms of what I was looking for. But I thought it was interesting. The title of her channel had something to do with the Beatles. She was a Beatles fan, even though she looked like a teenager, and she had discovered, and she had a guitar with her. I don't know how proficient she was in playing guitar, but she had watched an interview with George Harrison, and somebody had asked him, well, what's the first chord of A Hard Day's Night? And George Harrison told them. It went over her head. She didn't understand the terminology he used, but she tracked it down, and she discovered it's basically just a dominant seventh chord, I think, in the first inversion. And what makes it so compelling in that song is, a dominant seventh chord begs resolution. So when you start a piece, exactly, it just, what's next? Yeah, it just creates tension that you just, and then when it gets into the melody, you're right there. It's kind of like a hook. And she finally figured out what the chord was and how to play it, and she strummed it, that beautiful, it's just a G7 chord, but in the context of that song, it's so wonderful. And it just hypnotized her. She said, I felt the vibrations going through me. And it's just the discovery of live music. She figured out what the chord was. She played it for herself on her own guitar, and it was pure magic for her. Yeah. And, it was just, like I say, even though, a lot of, it's what she was talking about otherwise was what you would be expected from an adolescent with the combination of enthusiasm and lack of worldly knowledge. She went on to say that music stopped being good in 2005. That was her cutoff point, before then,
Like 20, 30 years a little later than maybe really, but anyway, yeah.
Right. Well, but she did have a strong appreciation for the 60s. She felt that music peaked in the 60s, and she said that she normally would go back and forth between the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and some grunge, Pearl Jam or somebody like that, or the Kurt Cobain, whatever his
Nirvana.
Nirvana or whatever, and so that's kind of interesting taste for it. But somebody who's kind of opted out of the grid in terms of contemporary popular music and is thinking for herself about music. But the point, is she discovered that. Not only the G7 chord, dominant seventh chord happens to be G7 in this particular case, but learn how to play it and the magic, of knowing something like that and being able to experience it for herself.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn neat, I thought.
That's pretty good. That's I mean, if you play your own music, it makes it a lot more meaningful. And if you actually kind of know, the more you sort of know about music, the more meaningful things can get. And a lot of people will poo-poo that because you're being all snooty and stuff. And it's true that there are academics that maybe have gone a little too far and they're kind of boring and they take all the magic out of it if you're like, in school or something like that.
Oh, I remember that quite well.
Yeah. I've been through some of that, but so I kept that kind of, anyway, I try to keep that at bay, basically. But if you kind of understand what's going on more, then you appreciate more. We talked about this before, like in classical music, people don't, there's a lot of stuff that if you really haven't heard it and you're not used to that kind of music, it just doesn't sound like anything to you. And then you get into it more, and then as a kid, as in high school, I was heavily into Spanish Romantic, the kind of stuff that Segovia was doing, Albéniz and Granados and those guys. But so I was playing a record in the band room in high school, and this other guy, who was a very technical guy, he was actually like the head stagehand for the musicals and the plays they did in the auditorium and everything in school. He was really techie kind of kid. He thought it was just like exercises, like finger exercises. He didn't hear it, he wasn't hearing what I was, and that made me realize that a lot of people don't hear.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
The other thing is there's a lot of music around that really, I don't think there's much going on there. I think it's all kind of like it's kind of like certain kinds of snack food that have almost nutritional value.
Yeah.
And I hear this stuff sometimes, and people are listening to it, and I'm wondering what they're getting out of it. Really.
Yeah, it's something like I say, I've been thinking about a lot lately. I don't remember if you remember, you probably don't, but a couple of years ago, I wanted to start listening to music while I was sleeping just to drown out some ambient noises that were going on in my apartment complex. And I decided on the jazz station because it was nourishing music, and yet I could disengage from it just enough where I can't from classical music. Well, the more I listened to it, the more I got into it, and I suddenly was not able to disengage from jazz any more than I can disengage because the music is just too good. Yeah. So subsequent to that, I picked it's literally a top 40 station. It's an FM station. I won't name those stations are kind of a dime a dozen, and I've been listening to that for over a year when I sleep, and so I've been exposed to a lot of the top 40, the number one hit, and it's very interesting. Some of it is surprisingly, I like a lot of it, but yet there's something troubling about it. Well, of course, they all use auto-tune nowadays.
Right, yeah.
And some of the, in the backdrop, back in the day of the live bands and stuff, the different musicians that were playing had their own personalities. You'd hear their guitar playing, especially if they had a good producer who would do the tracks nicely. And you say, well, that's so-and-so on the guitar, or that's so-and-so on the drums, and they would have their own identity and their own way of expressing themselves. Nowadays, so much of the background is synthesized, and it's not so much musicians as these producers, right. And some of who apparently have a lot of music training, but listening to some of it is almost too good to be true. And I'm wondering if there are versions, there's something similar to auto-tune that present algorithms for chord changes and stuff that they're relying on, that have probably been subjected to media marketing. Yeah. What kind of catches? Like I say, some of it is quite lovely, and it throws somebody who doesn't have access to the big world of music production, who could buy software and create some of the stuff for themselves, is kind of exciting because it really does put in your hand if you know what to do with it. But like you say, it's like snack food. So much of it, what bothers me is it's undeveloped. There's a lot of good music that, to me, has enough material in it. You could probably go on for 10 to 15 minutes if you knew how to develop material, but of course nobody has the attention span for that. It's cut to the quick, couple of repetitions, couple of varied repetitions. Again, sometimes it's done very well. The current #1 song that just hit. It's also interesting to see how these things get marketed, and like once it becomes into the #1 slot, you hear it once at least every hour. You can count on it, hearing it on this station once every hour. Currently, there's a song, I think it's called "Burn" by an English singer named Golding, Ellie Golding, something like. It's a fantastic song. But God, it begs to go on for another with development. I mean, not just idle repetition, but there's so much material there, and the harmonies are beautiful and they're rich. What can you do with that? You know, like you could just keep going on and creating a really first-rate structure of music. As it is, it ends up being a little more than cotton candy for the air, and it's really a strange world. Really a strange.
It might have started out as a really good song, and they produced it in such a way that they could market it easily.
Well, although I wonder, you know, again, you're using auto-tune. I'm not familiar with the singer, so I've never heard her sing, without studio production and stuff. So how much of it is auto-tune, and how much of the beauty of the song really is the production, you know, the way the synthesized stuff going on underneath it, which is kind of elaborate and kind of nice, actually. So who really made the song, you know? And again, like, are they using algorithms? What's going on here? You and Bob were talking about singer-songwriters earlier, and I think that's not going on at all right now. And how beholden are these producers to the production companies? In other words, how much are they channeling their talents to creating hits as opposed to creating art?
How much is manufactured? You know,
Yeah.
basically they get people who can do this job. If you can't do it the way they want, they get somebody else, and there are a bunch of people standing in line. So it's produced a certain way. But at the same time, I mean, there's you know, it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there are still singer-songwriters trying to distribute their own music or whatever on smaller labels and stuff like that. And you hear them sometimes on public radio at night and so forth. I don't think they're probably making a lot of money. What you're hearing on your top 40 is in industry, and not the mom and pop operations that are going on. In fact, the next Tom's Guitar Show special, which I guess is it next week? I guess it is.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. Next week is going to be the last Tuesday of the month.
Well, we're having a singer-songwriter come on the show. I can't remember her name. I was going to remember. See, now I remember that last week when I couldn't remember her name, because I've heard her name and I just forget it. But I was going to write it down and I slipped the paper so I could remember to say it. But she's doing a CD release party right after the show, and so she'll be on the show for a little while.
Cool.
And Joe Brisbane will be on the show with a song he wrote. And I gotta remember. It reminds me, I gotta call Joe. If you're watching, I'm gonna call you back. We're gonna rehearse. Anyway, but at the same time, though, if it's a good song anyway, because like what I'm doing right now, of course, my little weekend gigs is at the. I just as a change of pace, I decided to take a big fat jazz guitar instead of my electric nylon string guitar, so I'm more like a jazz guitarist. Because when I play the big fat jazz guitar, I'm more of like a blues-based jazz guitar player. When I do the nylon, I'm more Spanish. I play with a Spanish accent, and I do a lot of like South American dance music and stuff that is influencing what I would do. And I do some of the same things, of course, the same pieces, but even they sound different. You know, I just behave differently. I only maybe like the last weekend. Each night I probably only played maybe 2 pieces that really sounded like whoever made them up spoke Spanish as a first language. But anyway, so they really like that. But Paula at the Tuscan Moon down there, she really likes the old standards, and I know a bunch, but I mean.
Yes, you do.
But I don't know enough, So I'm trying to discipline myself and learn them, some sort of schedule, So like. Let's see, G major 7. See, I can't do that without. Yeah. Or do I do like this? I'm just arranging them, So like, so what I do is take a song. I do a very simple thing, but I like one time swing it. Like, I like I mean, I'm not doing a very good job of it because that's what's on my music stand in front of me, and I was like working on it a little bit in between lessons yesterday.
It's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I haven't even arranged it, let alone memorized it. But you get the idea of do something like that to the autumn leaves, and so you take a song that's pretty good, and maybe one that hasn't been heard that much lately, and then just mess with it, go with it, interpret it, deliver it. So my delivery of it is going to be just as a guitar solo on a big fat hollow body jazz guitar, and that's my goal. If I were going to arrange it some other way, if I were working with a singer, for instance, I would. If I would have sing it myself, I would do something different. But that's my model, so I take it and I work with it. And a lot of times I'll use like my little manuscript book, a little spiral notebook of staff paper, and I'll I'll write it out I'll write the notes out and some chords and stuff. I'll do a little shorthand thing. I'll write the riff in there, maybe a little bit smaller notes, and then like that. It's sort of my own sort of shorthand. I have software that I barely know how to use on my computer, but I do better with a pencil. So I'll say, I'll arrange this, and of course I'm not going to be selling millions of copies. I'm just going to play it someplace, at the restaurant or wine bar or something like that. And just do like a jazz guitar player kind of thing. Not that I want anybody to think of me as a jazz guitar player, because one thing, the jazz police might come and get me, and the other thing is that jazz guitar players don't get paid very much. As a classical guitarist, the guy was one of the places where I worked. The guy said, "Well, I could hire 3 jazz guitar players for what I pay you." So.
Yeah, well, there's so much to draw out of all of this. But so next week, singer-songwriter Uptown Bills, and that's upstairs, and anybody's welcome to come.
Right.
We're on the corner of Lafayette and Dubuque Street, and Uptown Bills is right above us there. Or they face Dubuque Street. If anybody wants to stop by between 6 and 7 and check out the show, and then weekends you're at Tuscan Moon and.
Yeah, I'm at Tuscan Moon on the weekends, and then Journey Church on Sunday mornings at 10:30 out there in Coralville. Not my religion or anything, but very inclusive. Very interesting how things are turning out there. They have a very diverse group of people who go there who are looking for something.
A good setting for music. A good to share your
They
music.
let me do whatever I want, and I just sit there and I try to bring different guitars and a different sound every time. So I'll actually play blues and my own compositions and things. But interesting people are showing up there. They're like gay people, for instance, who maybe don't feel welcome other places, and they're looking for some sort of place to go on Sunday mornings. They try to find the divine or whatever, and they're very welcome there. So they welcome everybody, but they're an emerging church. They're trying to kind of create it. The minister, I guess, was a Methodist for many years.
Yeah, actually, I think I've heard their radio. They've done spots on radio and welcoming everybody and emphasize the inclusiveness of their congregation and obviously their music too.
Yeah. So, there were a group of there was a woman there who was a Hispanic, I guess, and she's in a same-sex partnership. The other woman, but I don't know who the people were. They came with her. They looked like her, like they were from the same place as her. And I found myself playing because I just sort of I don't know. Maybe I pick up visual cues, or maybe there's some sort of sub-ether thing. I somehow managed to play the right thing for people.
Okay.
So I was playing some sort of Latin American thing. And they were kind of.
So you pick up on the vibe of the audience or the people
Yeah.
you're playing for and
Yeah,
reflect back. Yeah,
That's what I normally do somehow. I don't know why, but.
That's probably why you keep having the gigs. That's probably well appreciated. So.
Yeah, well, I seem to be I seem to be able to work. I've got to expand my horizons a little bit, but.
Well, like everything in life, everything's a work in progress. So, but we'll have to talk more about the state of popular music and some other things. We'll have to talk about Frederick Delius some night because that's
I was
another
listening
thing.
to something Delius on the radio. I was thinking of you. I was coming back from my gig, and I had the classical station on the radio, and they played some Delius piece, and I was very familiar with. I'd heard before. I can't remember what it's called.
Well, there was, I don't know if she's still on. I can remember as far back in the 80s, a woman who would do the morning show on the classical station, and she apparently, she must have been just by the frequency with which she played Delius. I can remember for a brief period of time before I got my job at the hospital, I was delivering DIs just to get some money. And of course, that's a very early morning thing. And I was sitting, I think I had just finished delivering my papers or whatever, and I was sitting in my car, and the sun was just coming up, and she played I can't remember what, it was one of the shorter tone poems of Delius. And I just sat there as the sun was coming up in my car listening to this. I've had a lot of experiences like that with Delius. I'll have to email you a link. I discovered a BBC documentary. It's about 90 minutes on Delius, and it's one of the best things I've seen about him.
Send that.
Because talk about chord vocabulary, man. It gets into those 9th and 11th and 13th chords.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking,
Yeah.
like you were mentioning him, and I was aware of him and everything, but like, because I was just driving back from a gig where I was crunching all these chords, you know, and I've been fooling around with a lot of chords. I'm teaching jazz lessons to people, you know, jazz guitar for like people in jazz bands and kids, you know, in college and everything. But just thinking like, wow, these chords, man, because you know, the chord changes for one thing. Just thinking, because I'm thinking like a jazz guitar player these days. I'm trying to curb it, but I am, you know. But you think like the chord changes and then the actual chords themselves, because you know, if you're going to solo, you want to hit notes that are in the chord. You want to basically aim for notes that are in the chord. So in jazz, you have complicated chords. You have a lot more potential to solo. I mean, if I do just a really basic like folk guitar chords, you know, it's like a little bit much. You know, if you play too many like weird notes. But if it's if it's like, you know, it's like what? I mean, like, and then I mean, the chords, you know, you can do all kinds of wild stuff.
Yeah.
I like So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so, yeah,
It is a bit jazz cat, man.
Yeah.
And tone poems are cool too, I think. And art songs.
Yeah, it's a whole world there. Delius has never been mainstream, and people either tend to really like him or not like him. But if you get hooked on Delius, you're hooked for life. It's an incredible. And so we'll have to talk about. You know, he also spent some time as a young man here in the United States.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Well, we'll have to wrap this up, but. Yeah, he wrote an opera back in the 1890s called Coanga, which is basically African Americans, the slaves thing. You know, this is 30 or 40 years before Porgy and Bess. You know, so there's a lot. We'll have to talk more about that in the future, and I guess we have to wrap the show up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do a blues thing here because I got this blues driver, so I'm gonna start a loop with my reverb.